The day the Tanners welcomed their biological daughter home, everyone in the mansion prepared for war. The servants whispered. The butler sighed more than usual. Even the gardeners seemed to trim the hedges with unnecessary tension. It was obvious what would happen next. The adopted daughter would feel threatened. She would resent the real daughter. The real daughter would slowly steal everything. That was how these stories always went. Evelyn Tanner stood beside the front entrance in a pale blue dress, wondering why everyone looked like they were attending a funeral. The head maid quietly approached. "Miss, if you're upset, please don't bottle it up." "I'm not upset." "Of course, I understand." "I don't think you do." The front doors opened. A girl about her age stepped inside, carrying an old backpack that had definitely seen better days. She looked around the marble foyer with wide eyes before her gaze landed on Evelyn. The silence stretched. Every servant held their breath. The family watched without blinking. This was it, the first meeting. The beginning of the inheritance war. The biological daughter suddenly smiled sweetly. "You must be my new sister. I'm Riley." Evelyn smiled back, excited. I'm Evelyn," she said, taking Riley's hand. "You must be hungry, the journey took hours." "A little." "Wanna raid the dessert fridge?" "And there's a dessert fridge." "Yes, there are 3. The girl stared. "And there are 3. The chocolate one is the best. I think already like this family." 5 minutes later, the Tanner family found the 2 girls sitting on the kitchen floor. Half a strawberry cake had disappeared. "So then," Evelyn said, "there's the movie theater." "You have a movie theater." "And an arcade." "You're kidding." "I wish, it's embarrassing." "No, it's incredible. I'll show you after lunch." "Deal." The 2 of them high-fived to seal the deal. Lord Tanner frowned. His wife frowned harder. His sons watched cautiously. Something wasn't right. Where was the jealousy? That evening, Lady Tanner entered the sitting room, carrying 2 jewelry boxes. "I've prepared matching necklaces." She handed one to Riley. Then, after a deliberate pause, handed the other to Evelyn. It was a test. If Evelyn complained or compared the gifts, if she looked disappointed, everything would make sense again. The Riley opened hers. "It's beautiful." Evelyn opened hers. "It's lovely." The sisters looked at each other. "Want to trade?" Sure." They switched boxes. "Yours has sapphires." "And yours has emeralds." "I like emeralds." "I like sapphires." Lady Tanner blinked. "Why did you switch?" They answered together. "Because she liked mine." Lady Tanner quietly left. Something was deeply wrong. The first incident happened 3 days later. A servant slipped while carrying tea. The tray tilted. Tea splashed across the biological daughter's dress. Every eye immediately turned toward Evelyn. She had been standing nearby. Lord Tanner's expression darkened. "Evelyn." She looked up from her book. "Yes." "Did you?" He hesitated. Never mind." The biological daughter looked between them. "Dad." Lord Tanner forced a smile. "It's nothing." After dinner, the sisters walked back toward the East Wing together. "Your dad thought you did it." "I know." Did you?" "I was reading." "I figured." "You?" "I was getting hit by tea." They looked at each other, then burst into laughter. "I don't think he likes me very much," Riley admitted. "I don't think he knows what to do with us," Evelyn replied. "You either?" "No." "I thought rich families came with instruction manuals." "I checked the library." "There wasn't one." "There was a wine encyclopedia." "Close enough." By the end of the week, they'd watched 4 movies, rearranged one of the mansion's libraries, adopted a stray cat that wandered onto the estate, and somehow convinced the chef to teach them how to make macarons. Meanwhile, the household grew increasingly confused. Every suspicious coincidence somehow ended with the sisters eating together. Every attempt to compare them ended with them sharing whatever they had been given. The family kept waiting for the adopted daughter to reveal her true colors. The adopted daughter kept asking her sister whether she wanted to go shopping on Saturday. The only people following the script were everyone except the heroines. By the end of the first week, Evelyn had reached one conclusion. Her new sister was delightfully easy to bribe. I found a cafe that sells soufflé pancakes taller than my hand. When are we leaving? I haven't even told you where it is. Does that matter? Evelyn laughed. Get your shoes. 10 minutes later, they were climbing into the family car. As the driver pulled away, Lady Tanner watched from the front steps. They've been together every day. Lord Tanner folded the newspaper in his hands. Perhaps Evelyn is keeping an eye on her. His wife nodded slowly. That would explain it. Neither of them considered the far more obvious explanation. The girls simply enjoyed each other's company. The cafe was bright, warm, and smelled like butter and vanilla. The biological daughter, Riley, spent nearly a full minute staring at the menu. I've never seen so many desserts. You'll get used to it. I don't think I can. You underestimate yourself. Riley looked up. You really come here often. Once or twice a month. You live like this. I didn't choose the rich life. You absolutely sound like someone who chose the rich life. I promise you, after enough charity galas, you'll start missing normal restaurants. Riley snorted. I'll let you know. Their pancakes arrived. Riley took one bite. Her eyes widened. Oh. What? I understand. Understand what? I understand the dessert fridge now. Evelyn grinned. See, you're already adapting. They spent the next hour talking about everything except the Tanner family. Favorite books. Terrible movies. Whether ghosts would get annoyed if someone haunted their haunted house. By the time they left, they had already planned next week's outing. Back at the mansion, a velvet jewelry box sat on Evelyn's bed. She frowned. I don't remember buying anything. Inside was a diamond bracelet. A small card rested beneath it. To Riley. A wrong room. She picked up the box and walked down the hall. Riley answered after the second knock. Oh, hey. I think someone delivered this to the wrong room. Riley opened the box. It's gorgeous. It is. You should have it. It's addressed to you. But you found it. So, and isn't this the part where we're supposed to fight over it? Evelyn blinked. Why would we fight? I don't know. It feels like that's what everyone else is expecting. Riley shrugged. I've watched enough dramas. So have I. They looked at the bracelet. Then at each other. You know what? What? Let's ask if they have another one. That is an absurdly reasonable solution. I try. They headed downstairs together. Lady Tanner happened to be walking through the foyer. She stopped. You. Her eyes landed on the bracelet. Riley was holding it. Evelyn was smiling. Neither looked upset. Mother, Evelyn called, I think this was delivered to the wrong room. Lady Tanner hesitated. You brought it to her. Of course. It had her name on it. I see. She accepted the explanation, but somehow it didn't satisfy her. It was all too easy. That evening, Lord Tanner invited Riley into his study. How are you settling in? I love it here. And Evelyn? She's amazing. His brows lifted. Amazing. She spent an hour teaching me which hallways lead somewhere, and which hallways somehow loop back into themselves. Looped. I got lost twice. She smiled sheepishly. I think your house is winning. Lord Tanner cleared his throat. If she ever makes you uncomfortable. Riley tilted her head. What do you mean? If she says anything hurtful, or if she becomes possessive. Possessive. Or jealous. Riley stared. She gave me the biggest bedroom on the east side because she said it gets better morning sunlight. Lord Tanner was silent. And yesterday, she convinced the chef to make my favorite soup after I mentioned my grandmother used to cook it. Silence. And she keeps introducing me as her sister. And I see. Riley smiled. I think she's been trying harder than anyone. After she left, Lord Tanner sat alone in his chair. He had expected hesitation. Complaints. At least one awkward confession. Instead, nothing. The next afternoon, Evelyn wandered into the greenhouse carrying a watering can. She found Riley kneeling beside a row of roses. I think I killed this one. Evelyn crouched beside her. You didn't. It looks sad. It's a rose. So, they just look like that. Most of the time. I've been apologizing to it for 5 minutes. I won't tell anyone, Evelyn said, laughing slightly. Riley sighed dramatically. Thank you. The head gardener spotted them from across the greenhouse. He quietly slipped away. By dinner, half the servants had heard that Miss Evelyn had cornered Miss Riley in the greenhouse. No one mentioned the part where they had spent 20 minutes arguing over whether plants preferred compliments or fertilizer. The conclusion they came to was obviously both. 3 days later, a charity luncheon was held at the estate. Guests filled the ballroom. Conversations drifted from investments to fashion to, inevitably, the Tanner family. A woman in emerald silk smiled politely. It must have been quite the adjustment. Lady Tanner nodded. It has. I imagine your adopted daughter is struggling. Before Lady Tanner could answer, laughter floated in from the garden. Everyone turned. Evelyn and Riley were sitting beneath a tree. A tiny orange kitten climbed into Riley's lap. Evelyn held out a ribbon, while the kitten repeatedly attacked it with complete confidence and absolutely no skill. Riley laughed so hard she nearly fell off the bench. Evelyn wasn't much better. The guests watched. They seemed close. Lady Tanner forced a smile. Appearances can be deceiving. Outside, Riley scooped up the kitten. We're keeping him. We are not. We are. The estate already has 6 cats. So, they have meetings. They do really, Riley said, tilting her head slightly. I've seen them. About what? I don't know, they never invite me. Riley gasped. They're excluding you. I know. That's incredibly rude. I've been saying that. They solemnly agreed the cats needed better manners. Watching from the ballroom window, several guests exchanged knowing looks. They're certainly putting on a convincing act. Not one of them considered that perhaps. It wasn't an act at all. Rumors spread much faster than facts. By the following Monday, half of Ashford Academy had already decided Evelyn hated her newly returned sister. No one could explain why. They simply knew. It always happens. The adopted child feels threatened. I heard they've already argued. My cousin's friend works at the Tanner estate. They've been fighting every day. None of those statements were true. At that exact moment, Evelyn and Riley were standing in line outside the campus cafe. If we get caught bringing milk tea into chemistry again, they'll ban us. They'll only ban you. Why me? Because you smiled while apologizing last time. I was trying to be polite. The teacher called it suspiciously cheerful. That feels unfair. It probably is. They each ordered the same drink. The cashier smiled. You two are sisters, right? Riley nodded immediately. Yep. You look close. We are. The cashier handed them their drinks. I hope you stay that way. Evelyn blinked. Thank you. The comment lingered in the air long after they walked away. Riley glanced sideways. People keep saying things like that. They do. Is something supposed to happen? I honestly don't know. After lunch, Professor Morgan assigned partners for a semester project. Evelyn. Yes. You'll be working with Riley. Okay. Any objections? The classroom became strangely quiet. Several students subtly looked between the sisters. Waiting. Expecting. Riley looked equally confused. Why would we object? Professor Morgan hesitated. And no reason. The lesson continued. Unfortunately, the rumors did too. They're pretending. I heard they're competing for the inheritance. They're probably smiling in public. It won't last. Riley overheard every word. By the end of the school day, she'd had enough. She marched straight toward the gossiping group. "Can I ask you something?" The students froze. "Sure." "When did Evelyn do anything mean to me?" Silence. My friend heard. Someone said. Riley waited. No answer came. "That's what I thought." She turned and walked away. A second later, Evelyn caught up beside her. "What happened?" "I accidentally scared 3 people." "It again." "I wasn't trying to." "You have very determined eyebrows." "I do not." "You absolutely do." The annual Tanner Foundation Gala arrived that weekend. The ballroom glittered beneath crystal chandeliers. Business leaders, socialites, and even politicians. Everyone wanted a glimpse of the reunited Tanner daughters. The sisters had much simpler goals. "I heard the dessert table is bigger than last year." Riley did a happy little sway before saying, "I heard there's a chocolate fountain. We should investigate." "For research." "Naturally." As they slipped away from the receiving line, Lady Tanner watched with a sigh. "They're avoiding the guests." Lord Tanner frowned. Evelyn must be influencing Riley. Across the room. "I think that's 7 kinds of cake." "It's 8, Evelyn replied, already reaching for a lemon cake. "You're right. We should verify." "Scientifically." "Exactly." Neither of them noticed the guests staring. Near the center of the ballroom stood a large display of rare orchids. A waiter carrying champagne rounded the corner. At the same time, another guest stepped backward. The waiter stumbled. The tray tipped. Several crystal glasses flew through the air. Crash. Champagne splashed across the marble floor. The orchid display wobbled. Then toppled. Every head turned. Evelyn had been closest. Someone whispered. "She pushed him." Another nodded. "I saw it." "You did." And not exactly. It looked like she did. Riley looked from the shattered glasses to Evelyn. Then back again. "Evelyn, were you standing over there because?" "I was trying to catch the orchids." "You caught one." "I did." She held up a single flower she'd instinctively grabbed before the display collapsed. "I forgot I was holding it." Riley burst into laughter. "So everyone's staring because you're standing in the middle of a disaster. Holding one flower. Like you defeated the display in single combat." Evelyn looked around. "This does look bad." The waiter hurried over. "I'm so sorry, Miss Evelyn. I lost my footing." "It's all right. It wasn't your fault. Nobody got hurt." The head organizer approached next. "We'll clean everything immediately." Within minutes, the accident was over. Or at least, it should have been. The following morning, the headlines appeared online. Tanner sisters' first public clash. Orchid incident, SHOCKS gala guests. Adopted daughter loses composure. Riley stared at her phone. "We were looking at cake." Evelyn sipped her tea. "We were." "They wrote 5 articles. They're very efficient. They said you caused an embarrassing spectacle." I remember standing still. "They used the words hidden resentment." "I don't even like orchids that much." Riley slowly lowered her phone. "Can we sue newspapers for being weird?" "I'm not sure that's illegal." "It should be." Later that afternoon, Lady Tanner called Evelyn into her study. "Sit." Evelyn did. There was a long silence. Finally, "The gala." "Yes." "Is there anything you'd like to explain?" Evelyn searched her memory. "I caught a flower." Lady Tanner rubbed her temples. "Evelyn." "Yes." "If you're feeling insecure." "I'm not." "If you're afraid of losing your place." "I'm not." "If you're jealous." "I'm really not." Lady Tanner looked at her for a long moment. "You've changed." Evelyn smiled faintly. No, I don't think I have. She stood. Was that all? Lady Tanner nodded absent-mindedly. After the door closed, she sat alone in the quiet study. She had prepared herself for anger. Denial, tears, anything. Instead, Evelyn had looked genuinely puzzled, as though the conversation itself made no sense. Across the hall, Riley was waiting with 2 shopping bags. Finished. Ahem. Did we get permission? We were discussing orchids. You were definitely not discussing orchids. We definitely were not. Good. She linked her arm through Evelyn's. The bookstore before the mall. The bookstore before the mall. The sisters walked away laughing. Behind the closed study door, Lord and Lady Tanner watched from the window as the girls disappeared down the driveway together. Neither parent noticed that, somewhere along the way, they had stopped asking whether the girls truly got along. Instead, they had begun searching for reasons why they shouldn't. Riley discovered something strange. The Tanner family had 2 versions of Evelyn. There was the Evelyn she knew, the one who always remembered everyone's birthday, who quietly slipped umbrellas into the entryway whenever rain was forecast, who never walked past a bookstore without going inside, who somehow knew the names of every gardener, maid, driver, and security guard on the estate. Then there was the Evelyn everyone else talked about. Manipulative, calculating, jealous, possessive. Riley had met neither of those women. She'd met a girl who accidentally bought 3 identical sweaters because she forgot she already owned 2. Morning. Evelyn slid into the breakfast chair beside Riley. I brought muffins. You baked those. I supervised. As meaning. I watched the chef work very hard. Very brave of you. I almost tasted the batter. The sacrifice. It was difficult. The sisters laughed. Across the table, Lord Tanner watched quietly. You've become close. Riley buttered a muffin. She's my sister. I know. His expression remained thoughtful. Just remember that relationships can change. Riley looked up. Why? People change. She frowned. Has Evelyn changed? Lord Tanner didn't answer immediately. Is no. Then why would our relationship? He had no response. The estate was preparing for its annual summer charity auction. Employees hurried through the halls carrying paintings, flower arrangements, and stacks of paperwork. Lady Tanner stood in the ballroom directing staff. Evelyn. Yes. Could you check that the guest list has been finalized? Of course. Riley. Can you help organize the silent auction tables? Sure. The sisters split up. 20 minutes later, Riley wandered into the library carrying a clipboard. She found 2 housekeepers talking in hushed voices. Poor Miss Riley. I know. She doesn't realize yet. Riley blinked. Realize what? The women jumped. Oh, Miss Riley. You were talking about me. Oh, oui. What don't I realize? The older housekeeper hesitated. Miss Evelyn has lived here for many years. She has. Some people become attached to their place. Riley stared. She's attached to her bedroom. Yes. And the library. Yes. And the cat that ignores everyone except her. I think that's healthy. The 2 housekeepers exchanged helpless glances. This conversation wasn't following the script. Meanwhile, Evelyn stood in the west hallway studying the guest list. Did Aunt Patricia really RSVP with 5 emotional support peacocks? The butler sighed. They're decorative peafowl, miss. I don't think that makes it better. It does not. Riley appeared at the end of the hallway. There you are. Evelyn. Yes. People keep trying to warn me about you. Again. They're very committed. I'm sorry. Why are you apologizing? Evelyn smiled sheepishly. I seem to cause people stress. Riley stared at her. You know what your problem is. What? You're too nice. I've been told I leave empty teacups everywhere. That's a different issue. It is. It absolutely is. The auction began that evening. Guests wandered between displays, while a string quartet played softly nearby. Riley stopped in front of a landscape painting. It's pretty. I painted it. She turned. You did. Evelyn nodded. A few years ago. Why didn't you tell me about it? I didn't really think to. Riley leaned closer to the signature. It's being auctioned for charity. I forgot it was this year's piece. You forgot. You know I paint as just a hobby. Before Riley could respond, a sharply dressed woman approached. What lovely work. She smiled politely at Evelyn. I assume Miss Riley is the artist. Riley blinked. No. The woman laughed lightly. My mistake. She turned toward Evelyn. You must be proud of your sister. I am. And perhaps one day you'll discover a talent of your own. The hallway became very quiet. Riley slowly looked at the woman. Excuse me. The guest smiled. Oh, I only meant. No. Riley stepped forward. You meant she couldn't possibly have painted it because she's adopted. The woman's smile faltered. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. Evelyn gently touched Riley's sleeve. It's all right. No, it isn't. Several nearby guests had begun listening. Riley crossed her arms. My sister painted this. She spends half her free time sketching. She taught me how to mix colors last week. And she's better than I am. The woman looked increasingly uncomfortable. I simply misunderstood. You assumed. There's a difference. The woman quietly excused herself. As soon as she disappeared into the crowd, Evelyn poked Riley's shoulder. You were scary. I know. Your eyebrows did the thing again. They did. I'm proud of you. Really? You defended your sister. Riley looked away, suddenly embarrassed. Well, I couldn't let her say that. Evelyn smiled. You know. What? I think you're getting attached to me. Riley gasped dramatically. I've been discovered. Later that night, the family gathered for coffee. Lady Tanner looked toward Riley. You embarrassed one of our guests. Riley looked genuinely confused. She embarrassed herself. She made an innocent mistake. No. Riley shook her head. She assumed Evelyn couldn't have accomplished something because she's adopted. Lady Tanner sighed. You're reading too much into it. Riley slowly set down her teacup. As am I. Silence. She looked around the table. When I came here, I was nervous. I thought I'd have to earn everyone's trust. I didn't expect my sister to be the only person who welcomed me without making me prove I belonged. No one spoke. Riley continued quietly. Everyone keeps warning me about Evelyn. But no one warns Evelyn about being hurt. Another silence settled over the room. This one lingered. Finally, Evelyn stood. Come on. Riley looked up. The bakery opens early tomorrow. Right. We're trying those croissants. Oh. She immediately brightened. I almost forgot. The sisters headed upstairs, chatting about pastries before they were even out of the dining room. The remaining family sat in silence. After several minutes, Lady Tanner spoke. Perhaps we've been too obvious. Lord Tanner nodded. Then we'll simply have to be more careful. Neither of them questioned whether they should stop. Only whether they were being subtle enough. Upstairs, completely oblivious, Riley was trying to convince Evelyn that buying 6 croissants each was a perfectly reasonable breakfast. Evelyn wasn't convinced. They compromised on 4. It was the most serious disagreement they'd had since meeting. It happened exactly 1 month after Riley came home. Lord Tanner requested a private family meeting, not including Evelyn. Riley realized that part only after she reached the drawing room. She looked around. Her father, her mother, her eldest brother, her second brother. No Evelyn. Where's my sister? Lady Tanner folded her hands. We wanted to speak with you alone. About what? A delicate matter. Riley immediately sat up straighter. Is someone sick? No. Is the company in trouble? No. Then what? The room fell quiet. Finally, Lord Tanner spoke. It's about Evelyn. Riley blinked. What about her? We're worried she's becoming overly dependent on you. She follows you everywhere. She's become unusually agreeable. And we're concerned she's trying to secure her place in this family through you. Riley stared at them for several seconds. Then, are we talking about the same Evelyn? Her eldest brother frowned. Riley, I'm serious. So am I. She counted on her fingers. She has her own hobbies. She disappears into the library for hours. She volunteers every Saturday. She has friends. She has a painting club. And every Wednesday, she goes to that little cafe downtown because the owner makes cinnamon rolls she likes. How do you know all that? We spend time together. Her second brother exchanged a glance with their parents. Lady Tanner sighed. You're still seeing the best in her. Riley tilted her head. Shouldn't I? At that very moment, Evelyn was outside in the garden. She was crouched beside one of the estate cats. I brought treats. The cat stared at her. I know you don't respect me. The cat continued staring. But I feed you. Nothing. You are very difficult. The cat accepted the treat anyway. Evelyn. She looked up. The head gardener smiled. Miss Riley asked me to tell you not to start lunch without her. I won't. She's been trapped. Again. I'm afraid so. Evelyn sighed sympathetically. The meetings are multiplying. They are. Inside. Lord Tanner leaned forward. Riley, you haven't known Evelyn very long. I've known her long enough. People can hide who they are. They can. And eventually, their true intentions appear. Riley considered that. Has Evelyn done something? No. Threatened me? No. Insulted me? No. Taken something from me? No. Then what exactly are we discussing? Silence. Her eldest brother finally answered. We're discussing what she might do. Riley looked at each person around the table. You scheduled a family meeting. About something she hasn't done. Nobody answered. Riley slowly leaned back in her chair. I think you all read too many novels. That afternoon, the sisters escaped to the city. Riley insisted they visit a tiny bookstore tucked between a florist and a bakery. The owner smiled when Evelyn walked in. Welcome back. Hello. And you brought your sister. I did. Riley wandered through the shelves. You come here a lot. Ahem. The elderly owner chuckled. Miss Evelyn has been coming since she was 11. Riley looked over. Really? Every month. Sometimes every week. Evelyn looked vaguely embarrassed. I like books. You also secretly repaired my leaking roof. The shop went quiet. Riley looked from the owner to Evelyn. What? It wasn't a secret. It absolutely was. You weren't supposed to know. My grandson saw you paying the workers. I thought he was asleep. He was pretending. The owner laughed. Miss Evelyn does things like that. She always asks people not to mention it. Riley turned slowly. You've been secretly helping people. Evelyn rubbed the back of her neck. It wasn't a big deal. How many people's? I don't know. The owner smiled. More than she realizes. That evening, the Tanner family hosted several business associates for dinner. One guest smiled warmly at Riley. You've adjusted well. I think so. And your relationship with Miss Evelyn. It's wonderful. That's nice. The woman lowered her voice. Just don't trust too quickly. Riley put down her fork. Is why? Well, You know, no, I don't. She's adopted. And yes, the woman looked surprised. That's all. Riley waited. That's your reason. The woman shifted awkwardly. I simply meant. You meant nothing. Riley smiled politely. My sister is adopted. Not suspicious. The smile remained on her face. But thank you for your concern. The woman quickly changed the subject. Across the table, Evelyn had missed the entire conversation. She was quietly trying to convince one of the younger cousins that broccoli wasn't actually the enemy. She was losing. Late that night, Riley found Evelyn sitting on the roof above the east wing. You escaped. I did. She patted the empty space beside her. Riley climbed up. You like it up here. It's quiet. The city lights stretched across the horizon. For several minutes, neither of them spoke. Finally, Riley, can I ask something strange? Always. Have I done something wrong? Riley turned. What? The family keeps acting. She searched for the words. A different. I thought maybe I accidentally upset someone. Riley's heart sank. Evelyn wasn't oblivious. She'd noticed. She just hadn't assumed it was anyone else's fault. Instead, she thought she'd caused it. No. Riley answered immediately. You haven't done anything. You promise. I promise. Evelyn smiled. That's good. I was worried. Riley looked out across the city. The family had spent an entire month searching for the villain in their home. The funny thing was, the only person who genuinely believed she'd done something wrong was the girl they'd already decided was guilty. Riley reached over and gently bumped Evelyn's shoulder. Next time you start blaming yourself. Ask me first. Why? Because I'm your sister. I'll tell you if you're being ridiculous. Evelyn laughed. That sounds helpful. It is. And if you ever do become an evil villainess. I get to be your dramatic assistant. Evelyn gasped. I was planning to recruit the cat. The cat has commitment issues. That's true. They both looked toward the garden below. The orange cat was asleep on a stone bench, blissfully unconcerned with family politics. Lucky little guy, Evelyn murmured. Riley smiled. He has the right idea. For the first time since coming to the Tanner estate, Riley realized something. The world wasn't trying to turn the sisters against each other. It had already decided they were. And it wasn't going to stop just because reality disagreed. Riley lasted another week. Then she snapped. It started at breakfast. Lady Tanner placed a basket of fresh pastries on the table. There aren't enough for everyone. There are 6. There are 7 people. Riley nodded. Oh. Before anyone else could speak, Evelyn reached for a plain butter roll. I'll have this one. The remaining pastries included almond croissants, fruit danishes, chocolate twists, and cinnamon rolls. Riley frowned. Don't you like cinnamon rolls? I do, Evelyn nodded. You always get cinnamon rolls. I felt like having something different. Riley looked at the basket. Then at Evelyn. Then back at the basket. There were still 2 cinnamon rolls left. Take one. I'm all right. No, you're not. The dining room became quiet. Riley picked up one of the cinnamon rolls and placed it on Evelyn's plate. I know what you're doing. I'm trying to eat breakfast. You're making sure I get first choice. I don't see what the problem is. I don't want first choice. It's polite. It's annoying. Lord Tanner cleared his throat. Riley. She looked at him. Yes. You shouldn't force Evelyn. Riley blinked. A force. Evelyn is simply trying to be considerate. No. Riley shook her head. She's trying not to inconvenience anyone. She turned toward Evelyn. When was the last time you picked your favorite first? Evelyn thought about it before saying, does it matter? Riley sighed. I knew it. That afternoon, Riley wandered into the kitchen. The chef smiled. Miss Riley, can I ask you something? Of course. Does Evelyn always do that? Do what? Give everyone else the better option. The chef laughed softly. Every day. If there are 5 strawberry tarts and 6 people, she'll say she wanted chocolate. What if there isn't chocolate? She'll suddenly remember she's full. Riley stared. You're kidding. I wish. The chef lowered his voice. Miss Evelyn has always been easy to care for. Riley frowned. Because she never asks for anything. His smile faded slightly. Sometimes that's not a good thing. That evening, the family gathered in the sitting room. Riley arrived carrying a notebook. Her eldest brother frowned. Why do you have a notebook? I've been taking notes. About what? You all, and the ridiculous things you have said. Everyone froze. She opened the notebook. Page 1. She cleared her throat. Evelyn looked at Riley for too long. She looked up. That was Dad. Lord Tanner looked vaguely uncomfortable. Evelyn gave Riley the window seat. She flipped a page. Suspicious. Another page. Evelyn bought Riley flowers. Another. Possible guilt. Another. Evelyn didn't buy Riley flowers this week. She looked around the room. Cold behavior. Silence. She flipped again. Evelyn attended charity event with Riley. Trying too hard. Next page. Evelyn stayed home while Riley attended charity event. Creating distance. Riley closed the notebook. I have a question. Nobody answered. What exactly is Evelyn allowed to do? How does she win? Silence. If she's nice, she's manipulating me. If she's quiet, she's plotting. If she spends time with me, she's clingy. If she gives me space, she's distant. She looked around the room. So, what is the right answer? No one spoke. There isn't one, is there? Her eldest brother finally sighed. You don't understand. Then explain it. Evelyn has the most to lose. Riley frowned. How? You came home. And your father's biological daughter. Riley looked genuinely baffled. So what? So. He stopped. Riley waited. So she'll lose her place. Riley turned toward her parents, brow furrowing, hands on her hips. Is that true? Lady Tanner hesitated. We've always considered Evelyn family. But. There is no but. Then why would her place change? Another silence. Riley slowly nodded. I think I finally understand. Everyone looked relieved. Then she smiled. The problem isn't Evelyn. It's all of you. Nobody expected those words. Her eldest brother actually laughed. Excuse me. You've already written a story. Riley stood. In your story, I'm the long-lost innocent daughter. Evelyn is the manipulative adopted daughter. So naturally, there has to be conflict or jealousy. There has to be someone who loses. She shook her head, glaring at them. But that's your story. Not ours. She pointed toward the doorway. My sister has never once treated me like I stole something from her. So why do you keep acting like I did? The room fell completely silent. Outside, Evelyn was sitting beneath the old oak tree. A sketchbook rested on her knees. She looked up as Riley marched across the lawn. How did the meeting go? Riley dropped onto the grass beside her. I'm banning family meetings. Can you do that? I don't know. I'm trying. Evelyn smiled. What were they talking about? Riley stared at the sky. They're weird. Again. They're committed to it. I've noticed. She closed her sketchbook. I hope they didn't upset you. Riley turned so quickly, she nearly fell over. Me? Him. I'm worried they're putting too much pressure on you. Riley burst out laughing. Evelyn. Yes. You're impossible. Thank you. That wasn't a compliment. I wasn't sure. Riley laughed even harder. A few days later, the Tanner family attended a charity luncheon. As always, whispers followed the sisters. I heard they're finally drifting apart. I heard the adopted daughter cried. I heard the real daughter moved into her room. Riley leaned closer to Evelyn. Do people ever get tired? I don't think so. Should we tell them we've been arguing? Evelyn blinked. We have. About whether pineapple belongs on pizza. And it doesn't. There. Riley pointed dramatically. Our first public disagreement. Evelyn gasped. How will our relationship survive? I don't know. We may never recover. Several nearby guests looked over as the sisters dissolved into laughter. The rumors continued anyway. By the end of the luncheon, someone had already claimed they'd witnessed a fierce argument between the Tanner daughters. Neither of the sisters could figure out where. They'd spent the entire afternoon debating pizza toppings. And Evelyn was still losing. The first crack appeared because of a necklace. Lady Tanner had misplaced a sapphire pendant that had been in the family for generations. The mansion immediately became chaotic. It was here this morning. Search every room. Check the security cameras. Servants hurried through the halls. The butler organized search teams. Within 20 minutes, every common room had been checked. Within 30, someone quietly asked the question no one wanted to ask. Should we search Evelyn's room? The room fell silent. Lord Tanner didn't answer. He didn't have to. The silence answered for him. Riley stared at every member of the family. Seriously. No one looked at her. The eldest brother finally spoke. We have to search everyone's room. Riley nodded. Good. She looked around. So we'll search yours first. He frowned. What? If we're searching everyone's room, she smiled politely, we'll start with yours. Is mine. Didn't you just volunteered? Silence. My room isn't. Special, Riley finished for him. No. Then we'll start there. He opened his mouth. Closed it again. An hour later. Every room in the mansion had been searched. Except Evelyn's, she had been out all morning. Nobody had called her home. Riley knew why. They wanted to search before she returned. She stood in front of Evelyn's bedroom door. If anyone opens this door before she gets back. Her voice remained calm. You'll be explaining to me why. Lord Tanner sighed. Riley. No. What if the necklace really is inside? Riley folded her arms. Then Evelyn can open the door herself. Not 1 minute before. The front door opened. Evelyn walked in carrying several paper bags. I'm home. She smiled. I brought everyone. The words faded. The entire family was standing in the foyer. Did I miss something? Riley immediately walked over. You've got perfect timing. I do. Mom lost her necklace. Oh, Evelyn looked genuinely concerned. Did you find it? No, they wanted to search your room. In my room. Yay. And I said no. Evelyn looked from Riley to the rest of the family. Then she quietly handed the shopping bags to the butler. You can search it. Riley turned. What? It's all right. No, it isn't. They're worried. They're suspicious. It's not the same thing. It absolutely is. Evelyn reached into her pocket and removed a key. She placed it in Riley's hand. If it'll make everyone feel better. Riley looked at the key. Then back at Evelyn. How can you be okay with this? Evelyn smiled. I've got nothing to hide. The search took less than 10 minutes. Nothing. The room was spotless. The eldest brother opened the final drawer of Evelyn's desk. Inside were neatly stacked notebooks, sketchbooks, letters, and dozens of receipts. He frowned. What are these? The butler glanced over. Donation receipts. There are hundreds. Lord Tanner walked closer. Scholarship funds, hospital donations, animal shelters, community centers, anonymous tuition payments. Year after year, page after page, every receipt listed the same donor. E. Tanner. Lady Tanner looked up. You've been doing this. Evelyn blinked. Yes. For how long? I don't remember. The butler answered quietly. Since Miss Evelyn was 15. Silence settled over the room. Riley looked around. Did none of you know? Nobody answered. Just then, a maid hurried into the room. My lady. Everyone turned. The necklace. Lady Tanner looked up. We found it. Where? It was sent to the jeweler last week for cleaning. Silence. The maid looked between everyone's expressions. Should I come back? No. Lady Tanner accepted the velvet box with trembling hands. After the maid left, no one spoke. Not because the necklace had been found, because every person in that room knew exactly what almost happened. They had been minutes away from accusing Evelyn. Again, without a single piece of evidence. That evening, Riley found Evelyn in the greenhouse. She was repotting a lavender plant. As you knew. Evelyn didn't look up. Knew what? That they'd suspect you. A small smile crossed Evelyn's face. I had a feeling. You weren't angry. Evelyn carefully pressed fresh soil around the roots. I've lived here a long time. That's not an answer. No. It isn't. Riley crouched beside her. So answer. Evelyn was quiet for a long moment. Finally, I think. She brushed a little dirt from her fingers. After hearing something often enough, you stop being surprised. Riley's chest tightened. How often? Evelyn smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. Enough. It was the first time since they'd met that Riley didn't know what to say. Not because Evelyn was crying. She wasn't. Not because Evelyn sounded bitter. She didn't. It was because she sounded used to it, and somehow, that was worse. For the first time, Riley wondered how many moments like today had happened before she came home. How many accusations had quietly disappeared because nothing was found. How many misunderstandings Evelyn had simply accepted with a smile. Back at the mansion, Lord Tanner stood alone outside Evelyn's empty bedroom. He looked through the open door. The room was exactly as she'd left it. Neat, warm, lived-in. On the desk sat a framed photograph. It wasn't of the Tanner family. It was of Evelyn and Riley at the Pancake Cafe. They were laughing so hard the picture had caught both of them, with their eyes closed. Lord Tanner stared at it for a long time. For the first time, a thought occurred to him that refused to leave. What if they had never been protecting Riley? What if all this time they had only been hurting Evelyn? The Tanner family began noticing Evelyn. Not because she had changed. Because, for the first time in years, they were actually looking. It started with breakfast. The coffee was already poured before Lord Tanner sat down. His newspaper rested neatly beside his plate. His reading glasses were folded exactly where he always reached for them. He frowned. Who did this? The butler looked surprised. Miss Evelyn. Lord Tanner blinked. She has done so every morning for 8 years. 8? Yes, sir. I assumed you knew. He hadn't. Lady Tanner noticed next. She was searching for a file she needed before leaving for work. I know I left it. It should be on the second shelf. Lady Tanner turned. Evelyn stood in the doorway. The blue folder. It slid behind the accounting reports. Lady Tanner found it exactly where Evelyn said. How did you know? You usually organize by color before meetings. I noticed you were in a hurry. Lady Tanner stared. You've noticed that. Evelyn smiled, of course. She excused herself before Lady Tanner could say anything else. The room suddenly felt strangely quiet. That afternoon, the eldest brother walked into the garage. His sports car gleamed beneath the lights. Freshly washed. Tires checked. Even the tiny scratch on the passenger door had disappeared. He looked toward the mechanic. "Did you finish the repairs?" The mechanic looked confused. "Miss Evelyn handled that." Handled? She paid to have it repaired last week." "Is why? You mentioned the scratch bothered you." "I did." The mechanic nodded. "She heard you." By the end of the week, the discoveries became impossible to ignore. The second brother's favorite tea had never mysteriously appeared in the pantry. Evelyn had been ordering it every month. Lady Tanner's migraines had never magically become easier to manage. Evelyn quietly reminded the kitchen which meals to avoid on difficult days. Lord Tanner's office plants had never survived because he suddenly developed a talent for gardening. Evelyn watered them whenever she passed by. The old family dog always waited outside Evelyn's bedroom before bedtime. The servants hadn't trained him. He'd chosen her years ago. None of these things were dramatic. None of them demanded attention, which was exactly why no one had noticed. Riley watched all of this unfold with growing disbelief. "You people really weren't paying attention." Her eldest brother rubbed his forehead. "Apparently not. You thought she was plotting." "We did." Meanwhile, she was reminding the florist about Mom's anniversary flowers. "Oh, yes. You've been outsmarted by basic kindness." He sighed. "I know." "No." Riley pointed toward the hallway. "I don't think you do." That Saturday, Evelyn disappeared after breakfast. When noon came, she still hadn't returned. Lord Tanner looked toward the butler. "Where is she?" "Saturday volunteer work, sir." "Volunteer work?" The butler hesitated. Yes, she'd been doing it for years. Lord Tanner slowly stood. "Take me there." The community center buzzed with activity. Children ran through the courtyard laughing. Parents chatted nearby. Inside one of the classrooms, Evelyn was sitting on the floor. Construction paper covered the tables. A little girl proudly held up a drawing. "I made a dragon." Evelyn gasped. "That's the fiercest dragon I've ever seen. It breathes glitter. That's much more dangerous than fire." The girl nodded seriously. "I know." Lord Tanner remained by the doorway, watching. A volunteer noticed him. "Are you here for Miss Evelyn?" "Oh, yes." "Oh." She smiled. "She'll be free in about 20 minutes. You know her well." The volunteer laughed. "Everyone does. She's been coming here every Saturday since high school." Lord Tanner looked toward Evelyn again. "She never told us." The volunteer looked genuinely surprised. "Aren't you her father?" A little boy tugged on Evelyn's sleeve. "Miss Evie." "Yes." "My shoe." "Oh no, did the shoelace escape again?" He nodded gravely. "It's a repeat offender. We'll have to arrest it." She tied the lace before tapping the toe of his sneaker. "There, maximum security." He saluted with a childish grin. "Thank you." Then he ran off. Lord Tanner found himself smiling before he realized he was doing it. The volunteer noticed. That's the smile she gets out of everyone. On the drive home, neither man spoke for several minutes. Finally, "I didn't know." The butler kept his eyes on the road. "I know, sir." "I should have." "Oh, yes." The answer was respectful, but honest. That evening, the family gathered in the drawing room. Lord Tanner placed a folder on the coffee table. Inside were photographs the volunteer had given him. Evelyn helping children paint. Evelyn planting flowers. Evelyn laughing during a puppet show. Even one of Evelyn sitting cross-legged, while 6 children climbed all over her at once. Riley picked up one of the pictures. "I like this one." The second brother leaned closer and said she has finger paint on her face. "And she doesn't even know." The room grew quiet. Lady Tanner picked up another photograph. "She's happy." Riley looked at her. "She usually is." Lady Tanner traced the edge of the picture with her thumb. "I don't remember the last time I saw her laugh like this." Riley answered gently. "You weren't there." No one argued. Because it was true. Later that night, Evelyn returned home carrying a cardboard box. She smiled as she entered. I'm back. Riley looked up from the sofa. How was today? Wonderful. What did you bring? Evelyn opened the box. Inside were dozens of colorful paper stars. The kids made these. She carefully picked one up. This one's supposed to be me. Riley examined it. It has enormous hair. I was very flattered. And this one. Apparently that's you. Riley laughed. It also has enormous hair. They said we're easy to recognize. Lord Tanner quietly watched the sisters from across the room. Evelyn spoke so naturally. She never mentioned anything about where she'd been, the children, or that she'd spent her own weekend helping strangers. Not because she wanted to hide it. Because she had never expected anyone to ask. For years, she'd lived in the Tanner mansion as though taking up as little space as possible. Never demanding or expecting. The family had mistaken her silence for ambition, when all it had ever been was humility. And that realization hurt far more than any accusation ever could. No one announced that things would change. They simply started trying. It was awkward. Painfully awkward. At breakfast, Lord Tanner reached for the coffee pot, only to discover his cup was already full. He looked toward Evelyn. She smiled. Good morning. Good morning. He hesitated for a second. Thank you. Evelyn blinked. You're welcome. The conversation ended there. Riley watched the exchange, then quietly wrote something in the notebook she'd started carrying again. Evelyn leaned over. What are you writing? Progress report. Should I be worried? You's not at all. Lady Tanner found Evelyn in the library that afternoon. You have a moment. Of course. The library was quiet. Sunlight spilled across the wooden floor. Lady Tanner stood in silence for so long that Evelyn finally looked up from her book. Mother, I owe you an apology. Evelyn closed the book. For what? Lady Tanner laughed once. A humorless sound. I don't think I've ever heard anyone ask that question so sincerely. She took a slow breath. I have spent weeks looking for reasons not to trust you. I convinced myself I was protecting Riley. But the truth is, her voice caught. I stopped seeing you as my daughter. Silence filled the room. Lady Tanner continued. I kept waiting for you to become someone you never were, and every time you didn't. I invented another reason. She lowered her head. I'm ashamed of that. Evelyn sat quietly. After a long moment, you really hurt me. Lady Tanner closed her eyes. I know. No, Evelyn shook her head gently. I don't think you do. Lady Tanner looked up. You didn't hurt me because you suspected me. You hurt me because. Evelyn searched for the words. It was so easy. Another silence settled between them. You never asked me. You never wondered if the rumors were wrong. You just. She smiled sadly. Believed I could become that person. Lady Tanner felt tears sting her eyes. Evelyn had never raised her voice. She didn't need to. Lord Tanner's apology came that evening. He knocked on Evelyn's bedroom door. You can come in. She was sitting at her desk, sketching. He noticed the room again. Simple, comfortable, filled with books, plants, and framed photographs. I've been unfair. Evelyn set her pencil down. Yes. The direct answer caught him off guard, then he nodded slowly. I thought I was preparing for the worst. I told myself it was responsible. I never realized. He looked around the room, avoiding her eyes. That I was asking you to prove your innocence over and over. He laughed bitterly, when I should have been proving that I deserved your trust. Evelyn looked at him for a long time. Finally, Dad. His eyes widened slightly. It had been a long time since she'd called him that. I'm still angry. You deserve B. I'm not ready to pretend none of this happened. I wouldn't ask you to. She nodded. Okay. It wasn't forgiveness. Her eldest brother found her in the greenhouse. I owe you one too. You do. I used to think you were, he stopped. I don't even know what I thought. You thought I was waiting to take something. Yeah. He looked embarrassed. I kept watching you. I know. You knew. You're not subtle. He rubbed the back of his neck. You look suspicious every time I walked into a room. Sorry. Evelyn smiled. I know. He laughed despite himself. I really was obvious. You were. The second brother apologized without words. He simply arrived outside Evelyn's room, carrying 2 cups of tea. He held one out. I made it. She accepted it carefully. You remembered the honey. I asked the chef. You still remembered. They sat together on the balcony, watching the sunset. Nothing else needed saying. A week later, the Tanner Foundation held another charity event. Guests immediately surrounded the family. One woman smiled brightly. It must be difficult adjusting now that your real daughter has returned. Before Lord Tanner could answer, Riley spoke first. My real sister has been here for years. The woman laughed awkwardly. I know what you meant. Riley smiled. You were wrong. The woman turned toward Lady Tanner. I'm sure you understand what I mean. Lady Tanner met her eyes. No, I don't. The ballroom grew quieter. Lady Tanner continued calmly. Evelyn is my daughter. I allowed people to convince me otherwise. I won't make that mistake again. Across the room, Evelyn looked up in surprise. She hadn't heard the beginning of the conversation. Only the end. Her mother met her eyes. There was no hesitation this time. Just quiet certainty. Later that night, the sisters sat on the roof once again. Riley stretched her legs out in front of her. So, they're trying. They are. How do you feel? Evelyn thought for a while. Hopeful. That's good. But, Riley smiled. I knew there'd be a but. They don't get to skip to the happy ending. They have to earn it. Riley nodded. I agree. She bumped Evelyn's shoulder. For the record, if they ever start acting weird again, we're moving into a cottage. Evelyn laughed. With lots of cats. Obviously. And a dessert fridge. Non-negotiable. They shook on it. Far below them, the lights of the Tanner mansion glowed warmly against the night. For the first time in a long time, it finally felt less like a house divided, and more like a family trying, however imperfectly, to find its way back together. Spring arrived quietly. Some things changed. Some things never would. The Tanner family no longer watched Evelyn with suspicion. Instead, they caught themselves asking a different question. When did she start doing that? The answer was almost always the same. Years ago. Lord Tanner had begun making his own coffee. Lady Tanner insisted on remembering her own appointments. The brothers stopped expecting Evelyn to solve problems before anyone noticed them. It wasn't because they no longer appreciated her. It was because they finally understood being cared for didn't mean they were entitled to that care. Sometimes, the greatest apology wasn't saying I'm sorry. It was refusing to repeat the same mistake. One Saturday morning, the sisters wandered through the city's weekend market. Riley stopped in front of a stand selling handmade scarves. This one matches your coat. It does. So buy it. I already have 3 scarves. You have room for 4. I admire your logic. Riley grinned. I also admire that scarf. They left with 2 scarves. Neither had been the one Riley pointed out. Halfway through the market, they noticed a familiar pair of voices. There they are. Several women from the Tanner family's social circle approached. One smiled politely. It's wonderful to see you 2 getting along. We always have, Evelyn replied. Of course. The woman laughed lightly. I simply meant it's nice that you've moved past everything. Riley tilted her head. As everything. You know. The rivalry. There wasn't one. The women exchanged amused glances. Young people are adorable. Riley looked at Evelyn. Am I about to become rude? I think so. Excellent. She turned back toward the group. You've all spent months telling us how much we secretly hate each other. You've analyzed every conversation, every photograph, every time one of us picked a different dessert. One woman looked embarrassed. We were only concerned. No. Riley smiled. You were entertained. Silence. You wanted a story. You just didn't like the real one. The women quietly excused themselves not long afterward. As they walked away, Evelyn sighed. That went better than I expected. I behaved. You absolutely did not. I only embarrassed them a little. A medium amount. I'll take it. When the sisters returned home, the Tanner family was waiting in the garden. A long table had been set beneath the old oak tree. Nothing elaborate. Just lunch. Lord Tanner stood as they approached. I hope you don't mind. We wanted today to be just us. Riley looked around. No reporters. No guests. Lady Tanner smiled, just the family. The words settled gently over the table. No one rushed to fill the silence. Instead, they ate. The brothers argued over grilled vegetables. Lord Tanner accidentally burned the bread. Lady Tanner insisted it was still edible. It wasn't. Even the chef refused to defend it. Evelyn laughed so hard, she nearly dropped her lemonade. Everyone stopped talking. Lord Tanner looked toward her. What? She covered her mouth, still laughing. And nothing. You've just never burned bread before. I've never been allowed near the grill. And now we know why. The entire table laughed. Not because the joke was particularly funny. Because it felt easy. After lunch, the family remained beneath the tree. Lady Tanner unfolded a small envelope. Evelyn. She looked up. Yes. I found this while cleaning my desk. She handed it over. Evelyn frowned. My adoption papers. Lady Tanner nodded. I realized something. When we signed those papers, I promised that you were my daughter. Her voice remained steady. I broke that promise. Evelyn looked down at the envelope. You did. I'm sorry, I know saying those words doesn't fix anything. It doesn't. But I intend to spend the rest of my life keeping the promise I should never have forgotten. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Evelyn carefully folded the papers closed. You know. She smiled softly. I've never really liked these. Lady Tanner blinked. Why? Because they make it sound like someone had to sign something before I was allowed to belong. Without another word, Evelyn tore the photocopy in half. Then again. Then handed the pieces to Riley. Can you? Riley immediately understood. She tore them into even smaller pieces before dropping them into the recycling bin beside the table. There. She dusted off her hands. Much better. Lord Tanner quietly laughed. So that's that. So that's that, Riley agreed. That evening, the sisters climbed onto the roof one last time. The sunset painted the sky in gold and pink. Riley leaned back against the chimney. So. What happens now? Evelyn smiled. I was thinking. We try that new bakery everyone keeps talking about. I meant with the family. I know. She watched the first stars begin to appear. They'll probably mess up again. Riley nodded. They're human. And they'll apologize again. And if they keep trying. Evelyn shrugged. I'll keep trying too. Riley smiled. That's very mature. I learned from watching you threaten people with your eyebrows. They're very persuasive. They really are. The sisters sat in comfortable silence. Below them, Tanner Mansion glowed warmly in the evening light. Months ago, everyone had expected this house to become the stage for a bitter inheritance battle. The adopted daughter would become the jealous villain. The biological daughter would become the innocent heroine. The family would choose between them. Instead, the heroine and the villainess had gone shopping. They'd shared desserts, adopted another stray cat despite repeated objections, and argued passionately about pineapple on pizza. They'd become sisters long before anyone else realized they already were. The story everyone expected had never happened, because the two people cast in the leading roles had quietly looked at the script and decided it wasn't worth reading. The end. Thank you so much for listening to Dusklit Audio. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the story. Leave a heart or thumbs up in the comments if you want more.